You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop. I'm Retro. Let's get it. We in the Chop Shop. We live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk. We live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop. I'm talking sports talk. So turn your dials up. It's live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop. We live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk. We live in the Chop Shop. We in the Chop Shop. I'm talking Chop Shop. I'm Retro.
H-Town, what's up? 120 minutes of your day. The Chop Shop, the nation's #1 urban sports talk show, and also your midday sports happy hour. Yours truly, Robert Hatter, alongside Jim Hicks and Chris Walker, coming to you live from Houston, Texas. We're in the building. Chris, let me tell you, it was a great night in sports. All I want to ask y'all, how great was that game last night? And I'm not talking about football game, Jimmy. I'm talking about the ACL game 2, the Yankees versus the Astros. Unbelievable. I stayed up. Jimmy, what happened to you? Did you fall asleep? I text you. You said nothing. What the heck was going on last night? You dropped your phone?
Over. He thought it was over. That's why.
No, Dane Irvin caused that. The Yankees, 2 people to blame for the loss last night. That's Boone, the head coach.
And Dane was Irvin. Terrible decision making.
And I told him, listen, guys, and guess what? Every coach takes gambles. Every star player takes gambles. Have you ever played a time when a coach told you to run a play and you saw a seam or saw an opening or saw a shot wide open and said, or saw a ball, a pitch looked like a grapefruit coming out, and you say, you know what? Hey, I know coach called this, but guess what? This is my pitch. You know what? This is my shot. You know what? This is my play. Vincent Young on the bootleg around the right side in the Rose Bowl. This is what happened. Now, however, last night, there's been plenty of times, and it showed that you can take a gamble and it can backfire. And that's what Boone did. He took the starting pitcher out after less than 4 innings of play. He panicked several times and looked like he was a guru. But guess what? If you lose the game, it will come back to bite you. And that's what happens. The Astros, as the game got longer, now guess what? I wasn't happy with being 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. That's what the Astros hit. I wasn't happy about that at all. I was pissed about that. We have to do a better job of advancing the runners. We had to, listen, small ball and the element of surprise come into effect. But Carlos Carrera, he was the star on defense. He was the star in the 6th inning. He was the star in the 11th inning. And guess what? This is our, number 7, number 8 batter in the lineup right now. Do you realize that Carlos Carrera played 75 games this year, Hatter? 75 games. Guess how many home runs he had? 21. So think about it. There's 162 games in baseball. Just do the math to show you what type of season. Remember, this is coming off his injury where he missed the vast majority of the season. This is a year where Carlos Carrera, where he was in talks, just got married last year, remember? Proposed to a young lady in 2017, right after the World Cup.
He got 1 hit, man. You giving him way too much shine. He got 1 hit.
No. He got more than 1 hit.
He'd been struggling up to then. He'd been struggling.
He was 2 for 5 last night.
I know, but he had been struggling up to this game. You know that. He had been struggling.
Well, the whole team offensively have been struggling in the postseason. Think about it. The Astros in 2 games, in 20 innings against the Yankees, we've scored a total of 3 runs.
Because you're playing a good team. You're playing a good team.
20 innings.
You're playing a good team. It's for the chance. It's a chance to go to the World Series. Of course, you're playing a good team.
Chris, where would you rank the Yankees pitching of the all-time in the last 10 years of World Series? With their starting 3 in the pitchers, where would they be ranked? Maybe maybe number 10.
Bro, they won 106 games. Come on, man. Like
offense, and they got their bullpen. Their bullpen is magnificent.
Dude, let me tell you something. You guys got the best pitching in baseball, and you got blown out the first game, and the second game with your starter, your ace, well, obviously not your second ace, you had to have a walk-off home run. If I'm the Yankees, I'm feeling good about going home up 1-1. I mean, tied 1-1.
I mean, you can feel good all you want to. You can feel good all you want to.
I would feel good if I was the Yankees.
Yeah.
If you were down 2-0, it would be different. If you were like the Cardinals right now, the Cardinals are going to Washington down 2. They lost 2 at the crib.
Hey, man. Hey, what's up with those Washington? I know we have them Washington. I hate you brought that up. Those Washington Nationals, Doc. They think about this, y'all. I don't know if our fans can grasp this. What's his name? What is it? Bryce Harper, the darling, supposed to be the best player in the National Baseball, the Major League Baseball, right?
Okay.
No, he's supposed to be. I mean, one of those. I mean, he played hardball with him. They said, "No, man, we're not gonna give you $300 million. You going over there to the Phillies. The Phillies didn't make the playoffs, and these guys came back and got a chance to go to the World Series. Sometimes." Subtraction is addition, Chris Walker. What do you think about that?
Addition through subtraction. Addition through subtraction.
Unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. Jimmy, what else you got to say about Jimmy, you was getting nervous last night. Slow down, Jimmy. When I text you, man, you can blame Dane Irvin, you can blame all them guys. But I text you and said, wow. Walk off. You know, I don't even talk about baseball. When I text you like that, man, you supposed to say something. I thought Sandra took your phone.
His phone wasn't broken when the Cowboy game was over, when he was running his mouth. His game
I didn't hear it.
It wasn't broken then.
Hey, Chris, did you notice? Man, did you notice I didn't mess with you? Did you notice?
Yeah, you did. What? You asked me, was I all right? You text me and asked me, was I all right? You know what's funny, man? You know what's funny? One of my boys out here in New York. I was in New York one day at a park at what's his name? I forget the name of the I'll think about it in a second. But anyway, the Conrad McRae League. So they play outside in New York. And I'm out there hanging out. I'd never met so many Cowboy fans that were New Yorkers. So, of course, the Cowboys lose 3 in a row. And for some reason, I found myself on this text thread with 11 other dudes, and all of them chopping the Cowboys up. And I've never seen so many disrespectful texts and pictures. I'm like, where do they get this stuff from? Does everybody Chris Charles already started with me. This ain't the day to start with me. But they send so many disrespectful Cowboy texts out there. Why does everybody love to hate the Cowboys?
No.
I don't get it.
Can I join in just 1 second? And I'm glad So we didn't pivot away from the NBA playoffs already. I mean, in Major League Baseball. But Jimmy, I'll never forget. For 3 weeks in a row, Jim Hicks, that man started this show off with, "How about them Cowboys?" I mean, how about... And I said so eloquently, I said, Chris, they haven't played anybody, Chris. I said, Chris, them teams they beat are terrible, Chris.
You mean when our 2 tackles are hurt? Amari Cooper didn't play the second half. Okay. My boy, look at Jimmy right now. Hold on. Who else? Randall Cobb didn't play. We didn't have our weapons. We had a gun with no bullets. Now, Zeke played well last night, but Dak, you see that text I sent you about Dak?
I saw that. That's low down. That's low down.
Dak should have signed that contract, man.
Hey, y'all, I'm going to send that to y'all. Keep talking.
On 4th and goal, they run a quarterback, a quarterback read option. You got Zeke, and you try to run Dak. We might need to get killed. Whatever the little young boy called all the plays. We might need to move him down the road, man. It sounded like a nice, cool little story, Jimmy. But right now, it's big boy stuff right now. It's big boy stuff.
So you want to change?
It's all cute. The savior that his dad was a high school coach, and he was a quarterback. And yeah, man, this big boy stuff. We $5 billion franchise here, man. We need to get some real dudes in there. This ain't time to experiment. We got way too many weapons. This ain't time to experiment.
Time out. Do
Go
they
on,
have
Chris.
some talking points for like the Cowboys fan club that they
What do you
emailed
mean?
this morning and y'all
Yeah.
following the same talking point? I mean, dude, let me tell you. See, you know, I was in Austin on yesterday, right? So, and while I'm there and got a chance to watch some of some of the football games at one of the sports bars there, right? And I did not. I hear y'all say it all the time about the Cowboy fans, but I've evaluated them from time to time, but not in cities that don't have a sports or professional franchise.
What city were you in? What city were you in?
I'm in Austin.
That's
and-
Cowboy country. What you talking about?
and it's San Marcos.
Cowboy country.
And I'm looking around, and two guys almost got into a squabble. White on white crime. I'm gonna stay out the way, right? All of a sudden, the 4th and 2 that Chris mentioned about in the second quarter.
Yeah, when that stupid play.
On the other side of the bar, he hollered, "F them boys."
Wow.
And dudes that was sitting next to me, they were suited and booted with the gray and silver. And one of them, I heard the chair squeak to get back. He finna go and lash at the guy across the other side of the bar. They don't even know each other. It just a guy was looking at the TV screen and he just voiced it out. He wasn't talking to those guys over there. But then those Cowboy fans, up until that point, had been antagonizing the entire room.
Man,
about
listen,
what they
man.
was about to do to the Jets.
Listen, the Cowboys had bad luck. The quarterback, Jets had been terrible, and they got back their quarterback. It's just bad luck that the Jets, people thought the Jets were going to be decent until my man got mono. And when he got mono, the Jets were terrible. I guarantee the Jets may not win another game the rest of the year. And when everybody play the Cowboys, we always get their best shot because they playing I don't know why they keep saying America's team. We the world's team. Forget America's team. We the world's team. Let's take a whole nother spin on it. But Jimmy, have you ever watched the Dallas Cowboy game in Dallas? Have you ever watched the Dallas Cowboy game in Dallas?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And think about the euphoria. Think about the energy.
City,
you
though.
feel like, no. It's different with the Cowboys.
You go and watch a New Orleans Saints game in New Orleans or anywhere.
right.
That ain't no city.
He right.
That's not a real city.
That's in any
He
city.
right,
How about the
Chris.
Cowboys, man? The Dallas Cowboys.
Chris,
Come on, man.
Chris, you go watch a Pittsburgh Steelers game anywhere.
I watched them
Yeah.
bums last night. Please give me a break.
And I'm gonna tell you something. Truth be told, of course, the historic tenor isn't there for the Texans. But let me tell you something. There, especially the Latin community. The Latin community.
Oh, they love the Cowboys.
Which is the vast majority of HISD students. The Latin community, they are in love with the Houston Texans. Just like a lot of the black community is in love with the Rockets.
Not the Hispanic community in Dallas, not the Hispanic community in San Antonio, not the Hispanic community in Austin.
No, I understand that, Chris. But I'm comparing is their in loveness, their fondness for the Texans is equivalent to what a Pittsburgh Steelers fan is for his. That is equivalent with a person in Boston. If you lived in Boston at 12 noon when the football season comes on, guess what happens? The city shuts down because everybody's watching the Pats.
Man, please, man. You listen, man. Stop getting all these people fired up. You're getting Derek Johnson fired up. You're getting Falou. You're getting all these dudes that have. Hey, listen, here's the deal. And Hatter knows this. Hatter grew up a Cowboy fan. Then he switched his tune. I keep telling everybody, all those people in New Orleans, you got Troy Bieniemy on here. He migrated to Houston. He's a Cowboy fan. Before the New Orleans Saints, they used to be the New Orleans Aints.
That's right.
Ain't nobody gonna watch them. So all those fans were Cowboy fans. So now that y'all doing a little winning with Teddy Bridgewater, I might add. That's another thing we got to talk about. Two big-time quarterbacks that got hurt, and they haven't lost a game. Type Bridges is in trouble in Carolina.
And Crab Legs
is in trouble.
Crab Legs
threw a Cinco. How you throw 5 interceptions? And listen,
I'm done. with
I'm
crab
done with crab legs, but I'm not trying to hijack the show. But Hatter,
No,
I
that's all
would
right.
be remiss if I didn't say that somebody lost to Missouri, sorry and terrible this weekend, and I'm gonna leave that alone at that.
Hold on 1 second. First of all, if you're going to go there, hold on, Chris.
I gotta go
No,
there.
I got something for you, though. First of all, I'd like to thank Clarence McKinney. I'd like to thank Kevin Granger, and Austin Lane, who is the president. I'd like to take the president of the university. Let me tell you something. I didn't make it for the game, but that was a first class homecoming celebration that TSU had last night. I can't control the game. I can't control what happened on the field. But let me tell you something. That was a first class. It was an adult atmosphere. I mean, even the young adults were behaving. Even the police had to come say, man, this is a great. I mean, it was just unbelievable atmosphere by TSU. I didn't go to a predominantly black college, the HBCU, but let me tell you something. I saw Doug Jones. He came on his poor little Twitter feed talking about, if y'all keep talking about HBCU, don't come to our homecoming. Doug, ain't nobody thinking about that mess, because your homecoming is off the chain. So ain't nobody thinking about it. And I happen to say, and guess what?
Hey, hold on.
Let me finish. Can I finish?
Homecoming or a homegoing?
Homecoming, because Rick Ross came in there. hey, they had the boss. Hey, they had Mr. Wingstop himself, Rick Ross, performed that night. And a special shout out and thank you to Troy Pradier and the Cox Pradier law firm, because I went by their RV and they showed great hospitality. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about this HBCU. They had about a 50 or 60-foot screen out there so you can watch the baseball game that night, Chris. Let me tell you something. TSU first class organization, and they got some stuff that's coming up doing TSU. I'm going to talk to you about it later, Jimmy. Let me tell you something. I'm not going to let Chris Walker worry about a football game when we got all this other stuff going on. Yeah, we lost by...
Missouri, sorry and terrible.
Let me explain something and add to you understand. I said on Thursday, and I told you guys on Thursday when we mentioned about the Missouri S&T. That team was 4-1 at the time. And I say, man, the TSU ain't won the game. I say, that's a scary opponent. Now, when they scheduled them, they were 0-0. That was last year when they scheduled this game. That team was a scary opponent. Hold on.
Are you serious?
Chris, I don't think there's a person on the planet that wasn't related to a player from TSU that went to that homecoming worrying about the football game.
That's the problem. That's the problem.
No, it's not the problem. It's not the problem. Think about the sale. The sale is to get alumni on the campus. You get people feeling good, and then hopefully they will want to open their pocketbooks, no matter what the terms of entertainment may be. That's what it is. You gotta understand what it is.
They can go watch a concert at the Toyota Center.
That's not the key. This is a SWAC school that is held when it comes to football and baseball. They mean TSU. They're out of real estate. Third ward, they're gentrifying the community with which it dwells in. The baseball team have been playing for decades since I was there. Had to play at McGregor Park and practice at McGregor Park. The TSU softball team right now, you know what their home field is this year? Jack Yates High School is where the TSU softball team have to play at and practice this year.
What's your point?
My point is this was a time to go and reintroduce the community of what could be, meaning it could be a stadium that could be built on campus. Those are temporary structures.
I like them temporary seats, Jimmy. I like them. I like them temporary seats.
They're rented. You got to get them back because it's covered
Oh,
the track.
okay.
And the
Okay.
track is, you know what I'm saying? They have to take those things down.
Okay.
Those are just rented. And guess how
Okay.
much it costs?
Oh,
to
my
run that
God.
game this weekend, it costs approximately $500,000 for that
What?
one game.
To get beat down. Get beat down by Sorry and Terrible.
That's not the see. That's the you missing. That's the small picture, Chris. That's not. Now, of course, you got to win. You got to win.
I thought it was a football game. Was it not a football game?
No. This was an event.
So let me ask you a question. So the same people on this thread are saying big time athletes should Fargo going to Texas and Texas A&M to go to TSU, and you tell me it ain't got nothing to do with the football game. It's got everything to do with watching Trey Songz and watching Lil Jacquees at a concert. Come on, man.
No. Remember I said for that play to work, it has to be. Remember I said it last week. Alcorn or Southern or Grambling would be the if it's football, would be the three schools that would be the most fitting for that equation, because you have to get a winning atmosphere, not the losing atmosphere to apply that equation to. And because I asked that question yesterday, I said, wait a minute. It was one of the guys that was one of the administrators on Saturday, and when I was at the game, and I asked him, I said, well, explain this to me. This quarterback, because he was a 5-star. He was a backup at Florida State. So he comes here and he's turning to be regular. And the reply was the right reply. The administrator's reply was, yes, he was a 5-star, but you have 2 stars blocking for him now.
Oh my God!
I
can't. I'm not commenting on this. I'm not commenting on this segment.
Don't comment. Don't comment.
That's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life.
No, it makes in football that makes sense, and that's not an excuse for me to win. So that means you got to remember. I said it. That was my theory. My whole theory. That's why I said it has to be a lump of those type of players to come at the same time with the same vision. And guess what? And then you're gonna need a little luck.
Stop it.
Hey, Chris. Hey, Jimmy, don't worry about it. Just watch the screen in a few seconds.
You got to win at the end of the day. I said that, understand it. Listen, the pressure isn't on a first-year head coach to win. The thing was
hold up, they fired the other head coach already?
This McKinney has just got there.
Man, God,
hey, Jimmy, just look at the screen right now and tell me what you see.
Wow.
Since he talking all that smack, tell me what you see on the screen right now, Jimmy.
At least we 3-3, player. At least we are 3-3. And listen, I sent you that. And we're in first place. We're in first place.
How many Cowboy fans at the beginning of the season, 6 weeks ago, if somebody would have said you wouldn't even have a winning record after going into week 7, what percentage of Cowboy fans took that bet?
Yo, man, first of all, we don't have a losing record. That's number one.
We don't have a winning record. I didn't say losing record.
We don't have a losing record.
We don't have a winning record.
I'm going to say this again. Listen,
you don't have a winning record.
Football, it's all NFL. The bottom line is we had 2 tough weekends. We will be back. We will win the division. And again, when we get healthy, watch out. But listen, baby, we 5 billion strong, man. We 5 billion strong. Had to having fun over there because he got the controls. They better be glad I ain't got no controls. I cannot believe we sat up here and listened to Jimmy for 5 minutes, tried to talk about and make excuses on losing to Missouri, sorry and terrible, a school we've never heard of in a million years. They don't forget a 5-star. Hey. They ain't got a no-star. Hey. And they going to Houston on Rick Ross night and beat up on TSU, and he's been making excuses.
Ain't nothing you can say about an HBCU to me today. You got to let the euphoria wear off of me. Ain't nothing you can say. I am HBCU all the way.
You didn't even go. You didn't even go to the game. So
no, I ain't go to the game. I don't go to the game.
I was there.
I ain't go to the game.
I know Jimmy went. He saw that. Jimmy saw that crucifixion by himself. Because he's an alum. But you didn't go.
No.
Jimmy, you just said, I wish we could take back. If we can, let's go back in the Facebook coffers and find Jimmy saying, if we lose to Missouri, sorry and terrible. And he put his head down. His hat almost fell off his head. He said, if we lose to them, I'm done. That's what Jimmy said. Jimmy,
I don't remember him saying it.
Jimmy said that. He said we can't lose that one. He said we can't lose that one. Look at Jimmy's face. Look at his face. Look at his face. You said that. He said we can't lose that one. Missouri, and I knew they were gonna lose. Missouri, sorry and terrible. Missouri, sorry and terrible.
Hey, Jimmy, did we miss? Did they? Excuse me, I said did we? Did they miss a field goal or something at the end? They could have tied it. Okay.
It don't matter.
Okay, I just wanted to know.
Guess what, guys? Guess what? TSU football is understand. They was awful last year. They was awful the year before that. They was awful the year before that, and the year before that when Derek Griffin was a freshman. They was awful. They awful right now. So what are the expectations of the program isn't equivalent to the Dallas Cowboys, Chris. We wasn't in saying we going to the Super Bowl. We wasn't saying we're going to win the division. We're saying we're going to.
Sure did.
No, there's 10 more games left in the regular season. What are you talking about? We can end up 13-3.
No, but you ain't. But you ain't.
We're going to be, I guarantee we end up in the playoffs. And you still, I guarantee the Astros don't advance.
Chris.
I guarantee the Astros don't advance.
NFC, the first place is 3-3 in that division you in. You play Philadelphia this Sunday, they 3-3 for first place. Think about who would have ever thought that Philadelphia and you and the Rams, which are not in your division, would be 3-3.
That's why they call it a season. That's why they call it a season.
So now rhetoric changes.
Hey, by the way, talking about rhetoric changes, had us cousin, nephew's homeboy all of a sudden say he want to play in the NFL again. Antonio Brown. He says, I want to get this all behind me so I can get back. I thought he didn't want to play in the league anymore.
I got a name for Antonio Brown. Jimmy, what's your name? I didn't put Hoochie Coochie Man. I ain't thinking about no Hoochie Coochie Man right now. Yeah. He's a hoochie.
I want to put all this behind me, and I want to play in the NFL again. I thought we needed you.
But
I thought the NFL needed you.
Hold up, Chris. Why did he talk about Bob Kraft? He probably could have got why he talked about Bob Kraft.
No. I'm going to give you one better. He says he's opening to returning to the Patriots.
Yes!
Like, what? Come on, man.
It's his decision to make.
I'm like, what is going on, man?
Ain't that something? And speaking of course, NFL guys, we're going to, in case you missed some of the action last night,
Jim,
this past weekend.
Let's get these picks out the way. Yeah. Let's get these picks out the way.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
That's my hand right here.
It's kind of interesting.
Chris.
Count them up, Chris.
Going into the weekend, I was in first with 3-0. Chris was in second with a 1-2 record, and Hatter was 0-2.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see how everybody fared over this past weekend with the picks, with the NFL picks. And let's see, will I be 4-0? Or will Hatter get his first win of the season? First game on Thursday night, New England beat the Giants 35-14. I had the Giants in 17 points. And New England scored in the fourth quarter. Boy, I was out of pitch creek. I lose that game.
I wasn't.
Okay. Hold on. On Sunday, the Tampa Bay and Carolina played in London, right? And Carolina won 37-26. I had Carolina. I gave Hatter 2 points. I covered that with 11-point win.
So you won that one?
Right?
You won that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I won that one.
All right.
Next up is Houston and Kansas City. Hatter took Kansas City and gave me 5 points. Won outright. I won that one. Next up is Philadelphia and Minnesota. Minnesota won 38-20, guys. And I had Minnesota and gave him 3 points. I won that one.
You won that one?
Right? Yeah. I had Minnesota and gave you 3 points.
Okay, Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I won that. That was the line was. Next up, New Orleans.
Memphis math.
Huh?
Next was New Orleans at Jacksonville.
I know
New
I won
Orleans
that.
held on 13-6 win. I had Jacksonville and 1 point, and
wasn't enough.
Hatter won that.
Wasn't enough. Keep going.
Hatter won that. Next up was Washington at Miami. Washington won 17-16. However, Hatter gave me 3.5 points in Miami, which I took Miami. And guess what?
I didn't give you them points. I didn't give you them points.
The line gave me them points. You didn't want to. I got 3.5. So now that as we stand right now, that's
4-2. Yeah.
42.
Who's winning?
Next up,
Jimmy.
Cincinnati and Baltimore.
Okay.
Baltimore won 23-17, and Hatter gave me 11 and a half points in Cincinnati. I'm so proud of Cincinnati. They some garbage, but I take 11 and a half all day, and I took the win with that because
They
the score was
covered.
23
Oh,
and a half.
Jimmy, I didn't see that 11 and a half, man. Yeah, I think you. Yeah.
Yeah, you
No,
saw
I
it.
gave you 11. How much they lose by?
They lost by 6. Okay.
All right.
That's 5-2. 5-2. Next up, Seattle and Cleveland, right? Seattle won 32-28. I had Seattle, and I gave Hatter 1.5 points, and I covered with that 4. That's another victory. That's 6-2.
But I had Seattle.
Nickname nickname Snot over there. He beating the snot out of him. That's crazy.
Come on, man. God.
You can tell us about Odell in a minute with his first 100-point game of the season, 100-yard receiving game of the season. Now,
Come
next
on,
up,
man.
That's 7-2. That's 7-2. So we're gonna see if Hatter can run the table.
That is 62.
At the
62,
Rams,
man.
right?
You can't count. 62.
7-2.
6. Come on,
7-2,
Jim.
Hatter.
6. Keep going, man. Keep
5,
going.
6. I got 6.
Memphis
Keep going.
Seattle, listen, Seattle. I'm sorry.
No, you did that one already.
San Francisco and the Rams, which Hatter gave me San Francisco in 3 points. Frisco beat the snot. Listen, guy, listen. Let me tell you what they did. Listen, this Frisco. Beat the snot out of the Rams. 20-7. I got that one. Hey, chalk it up for another one. Next up, Atlanta and Arizona.
Ooh, Arizona squeaked that one out.
This was a good one, right? Hatter took the Dirty Birds, gave me 2.5. Arizona won head up by 1. I can't believe it. This is like taking candy. Listen, I'm loving the rookie. If that rookie, that's another whole topic for tomorrow. What if the rookie was white?
Hey, man, hey, that's all. Let's go to the next topic. Yeah, you the one now.
Hold on. We got 3 games left. Tennessee at Denver.
They benched Mariota. They
I got that one.
Finally.
I should have won that one. Did I win that one?
Hatter had Denver and gave me 2.5. Denver won by 6, so Hatter won that one.
Oh,
finally.
How about this one? The Cowboys and the Jets.
Oh my God.
I had the Cowboys and I gave up 7. Hatter won that one.
I'm back.
Pittsburgh and the Chargers. I took the Chargers and gave Hatter 7.
Oh yeah.
And Pittsburgh won head up. So
gotcha.
So
wasn't that bad?
Hatter,
it wasn't that bad. I take it.
You got to stop. You got killed.
That sounds like TSU losing by a field goal. That ain't that bad.
That ain't that bad. Hey, I felt a little bad. You know what? I was winning, and you know what, man? I want to go back to where it was last year. I would have won. All of these points, I can't stand these points.
Hey, I love the punch spread. And hey, Chris, you can have him next week, Chris. Chris, I love him.
Easy money, man. Easy money, man. That's easy
money.
Oh, yeah,
I'm easy money. I'm easy money.
Hey, and where Favre at? Favre, look here. Look what I got this weekend.
Man, you better put, boy, they going to cut our water off. You better put that down, man. They're going to cut our water off.
Hey, man.
I'm telling you right now.
Hey,
this
is my sheet. I threw that sheet in the garbage.
Don't sing that. Don't sing that, bro. Don't sing that, bro.
And don't forget, guys, coming up at 15 minutes past the hour, we're going to engage we're going to bring that conversation back up as promised to you guys. Ramogi Huma. He's the guy who originated the bill out of California that turned into law the Fair Pay to Play Act. We promised you we would do the originator of the bill. And also, he's also the National Cause Players Association. That thing has over 20,000 members. And he founded that. Helped founded that. And that thing is growing right now. As a result, he's going to join us.
Could you
live
explain that?
on the
Is that
Chop.
sort of like a union for the player?
Yes, sort of
Players?
like a union for the players. He's going to explain
Okay.
all that, man. I mean, this is some, hey, man, this guy, this is good. And guess
Oh,
what?
that's heavy.
He's a brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
He's been
brother.
around. They did a special on him one time.
You know what it reminded me of, Haller and Chris? You know, a lot of times we at some point in time, everybody got their eyes opened to a lot of inventions that Black people were a part of that we didn't hear about in schools, in our school history class. You know, we had to learn on our own, and then they finally, so then you go, this guy, even though Nancy Skinner gets credit, now don't get it twisted, she had the gall to go and take this proposal and format it into a bill for to go to the House, to the court, to the House and vote on, to turn it into law. But nobody would know this guy if places like the Chop Shop didn't provide him the opportunity to voice and to speak and to share his thoughts and let you guys know just how it came about. So don't forget, share the show right now to your family and friends on your timelines. Share the Chop Shop.
And while they doing that, Jimmy, I want to take out, and parents, I want you to go back and talk to your children about this. Jimmy, you just made a key point of view about stuff we didn't learn. But I want our children to grow up, and our children are growing up in an era now, Chris Walker, of Elliot Kipchoge, Simone Biles, Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, Caster Semenya, Lewis Hamilton, and LeBron James. And our kids, your dreams are valid. You have no human limit. And the reason I mentioned Eliud Kipchoge first, that's the first time a man ever, Chris, I don't know if you keep up with this, broke the barrier, the 2-hour barrier of the marathon. It's the first time it ever been that man run the marathon in under, Chris Walker, in under 2 hours. Check this out. He ran an average of 4 minutes and 34 seconds per mile on his pace because it's 26.2 miles to cross the finish line. And he ran
shoes on, shoes off.
Shoes on. Guess what he had? Though? He had on Nikes, baby. He had on some Nikes. He had on some new Nikes, baby. Yes, he had some new Nikes on, baby. So let me tell you something, man. I'm just so proud of records like this because I go back. I remember Roger Bannister. I don't remember, but they used to talk about Roger Bannister. He was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. And then in 1969, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. In 2009, Usain Bolt run the 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. And Eliud Kipchoge runs a sub 2-hour marathon. Y'all, let me tell you something. What are the human limits, man? That is, Jimmy. That is, Jimmy, you know what?
They need to test him for PEDs, man. They need to test him.
Wow.
They
need to test him for PEDs.
That's automatic whenever you set a record, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
That's automatic. Whenever you set a record.
I heard it wasn't validated, though. I heard they're not validating the record. Is that true?
Why is that?
I thought I read something about that.
I didn't hear that.
Wrong, though.
I didn't hear that. You know what's so, and Jimmy, shout out to our former intern, Dorian Branch Dodo. She texted me a picture yesterday. Did you see? Jimmy, she texted me a picture. She is one of the players that was invited to go to Media Day. Usually, you got to be a baller to go to Media Day, Jim. They don't just send scrubs to Media Day.
Or good senior.
Or good what?
Normally you're supposed to. Yeah. Normally.
Yeah. So,
hey, listen.
No, let me tell you now. Normally you're supposed to. Because the U of H men, guess who's one of the 3 players who's gone with Coach Sampson to the U of H men's Media Day?
Who are they?
Chris Harris. So Let that resonate, Miss Lemon.
Oh my God, y'all
Chris
something else.
Harris is
Hey
going
man,
today.
I can't stand that dude,
listen,
man.
man.
What?
Listen, man, did y'all hear about the D3 coach? They had to vacate his title because he was loaning his car out, man.
We didn't talk about that last week.
Think about this. Think about all the stuff some of these other schools have done. And this dude lends his car, and that's why I say every time North Carolina get a penalty, right? North Carolina A&T gonna get. I mean, every time somebody in North Carolina does something wrong, that means North Carolina A&T gonna get 7,000 penalties, man. They punish a D3 coach, right? But some of what these other coaches are doing at the high level, you never hear nothing about it, man.
Hey, Chris.
Unbelievable.
Hey, Chris, you didn't give me a chance to finish my story. But
Oh,
Dodo,
my bad. Go ahead on.
she texts me from there, and guess who she took a picture with? I didn't put it on our screen. It should comes up soon. Guess who she took a picture with?
Who was that?
The baddest coach in the land. Right there
Ooh.
on the screen right there. Penny Hardaway, she took a picture with him.
Oh, my God.
And she texts me back, said, Robert, Mr. Robert, he calls you Bobby. I said, yeah.
Hey, man. Y'all look at Penny, y'all. That shirt got them pants, them britches kind of tight on Penny.
Yeah,
no, Chris Walker. Bug in the rug, looking like a snail.
Chris Walker bought Penny them shoes. Chris Walker bought Penny them clothes, man. Yeah.
Y'all look up there at Penny britches, man.
Yeah.
And he got it stuck in.
Hey, man, yeah, coach.
Get a yeast infection.
Coaches have to. Coaches have to. Hey, coaches have to tuck their shirts in. Jimmy, you know coaches got to tuck their shirts in.
No, they don't.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But y'all some haters, man. But that shout out to Dodo. She got a chance.
Oh, that's good. We happy for Dodo, man. She
said he's so nice. She said I told him I work with the chop shop. He just went crazy. So they had a good time up there. But shout out to those kids who got a chance to go to AC Media Day. And but I didn't. I'm sorry, Chris. Go on, Jim.
Yeah. And definitely, we're definitely proud of Dodo, guys. And that goes to show you internships, they matter. And so it means if you have a relative who's attending college and of course a student athlete, they don't have to be a student athlete, it's a student. And they're interesting or majoring in communications or journalism, then let them know we are accepting emails and recommendations for our spring interns who will come and work with the chop shop and get valuable experience that can help them in their careers after college. Now, we go to the boom boom room, guys, and whereas we entertain some of the comments and where it's been off the chain, shout out to all you guys out there on this Monday. I see you out there, Jeremy Cunningham. I see you, Kim McElroy, Houston Hornets, Derek Johnson. I see you, Sean Jones. I see you, Stacey Houston up in Dallas. We're going to talk about the R.J. Hampton redeeming himself a little bit in Oklahoma City after Memphis a little bit later. But meanwhile, let's entertain some of these comments. And Melvin Dews has a question for you, Chris. He says, why is it, and of course, and you too, Hatter, why is it in the individual sport we acknowledge record breakers are the greatest, but in team sports, people won't acknowledge the new athletes aren't the greatest? For example, J.J. Watt can't be better than Lawrence Taylor. You know, LeBron can't be better than Jordan, etc. In other words, that's how the narratives are morphed when it comes to the team sports. And so I guess you guys going to share your thoughts on that, how the individual sports.
I don't understand this question, Chris. Maybe Chris, you answer because I don't understand it.
Well, he's saying that, we can say that somebody breaking a record, a time, an individual record, or maybe because it's time or high jump, it's an individual thing. But in a team sport, J.J. Watt could never be better than Lawrence Taylor, even though they say Lawrence Taylor defined the game. LeBron could never be better than Mike, even though statistically he is far better than Mike. But from a team perspective, he is not. So it's easy to quantify breaking a record in time and track. Track is the one sport, especially other than the relays, where it's mano y mano, right? But in a team sport, how can we say that Tom Brady's better than Joe Montana, or Joe Montana is better than Dan? What's his name? Played for the Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino, So it's hard to quantify. That's why my point is that LeBron is better than Michael Jordan because he's more of a Michael Jordan. Hello, man. I was in Foot Locker yesterday, right, dude? How many pair of versions of Jordans do they have, man? Like, I mean, how many got caught on the boat in L.A. First of all, when they struck back against China? How many got caught? I didn't know they had that many versions of Jordans, man. Did Jordan play 13 years or 75 years? Like, how many versions of Jordans do they have?
I don't know if you noticed those ones that got caught at that boat in L.A. or San Francisco, whatever it was. Those were the off-white versions. Those are the ones they could upcharge you on. They were the They were the knockoff off-white versions. And China, Jimmy, off-white is Virgil Abloh. Chris, I think you're familiar with him. He's the new creative designer of Louis Vuitton. But
Louis Vuitton, I was gonna say, yeah.
And guess who he used to be the executive? Guess who he used to be the assistant of?
Nike.
No, Kanye West. He used to be his assistant. Now he's the creator. So he got this brand called Off-White. So what he does, he take one of the Nike shoes and do something crazy to it. Put a thing here, put a little something here, and they charge you abnormal amount of money for it. So a lot of those fake shoes, they had a big cargo truck. And what they said, Jimmy, they played like they were napkins. They on the manifest said they were shipping napkins. Yeah, you're gonna be shipping some napkins from China for some napkins. So they got. I guess that's how they got caught up. But
so we got a lot of folks running around here with fake Jordans on. Is what you're telling me? Then.
Well, it's possible. It's possible. But Jimmy, hold up, Jimmy. I wouldn't call them fake. You know why I wouldn't call them fake? Because all of them are made over there. All of them made over there.
What about them fake Louis Vuitton purses? And listen, when we went to China, right? They got a spot that you can go and shop. And I'm telling you right now, and they say fake, what's fake and what's not fake. Some people tell me that some of the stuff they make from the actual real place where they make the Louis Vuitton spot is sent to the market where we get the supposedly fake stuff.
Yes.
So some people thinking that some of these artists and all these things, when the artists come there, they all shop there. I said, hold on. All the athletes shop there.
Chris, even the one at the Louis Vuitton store, you got to realize, they ain't made in France. Somebody make them, and the France they might put their buckles or their particular, their little locks and their little screws in. Chris, all of it is made over there, man. So when you over here getting mad at the end, hold up.
So why listen. So why are we going to the Galleria then, Hatter? What are we doing there? We wasting our money there.
Convenience, because you ain't going to take your butt over to China. Everybody ain't coming over to China. Jimmy, you know what Jimmy said the other day? I won't repeat what he said. Whatever he said about China, but always remember, I was laughing at the guys who were protesting and talking negative about the NBA. Adam Silver ain't got no ball. Because guess what? Those same guys were talking on an iPhone, a phone that was made over there in China, and walking around with Air Jordans that were made over there in China too. So guess what? All of us are part of that thing that's happening. And go back, hey y'all, go get 60 Minutes. I'm going to help you out. Go get yesterday's 60 Minutes, and it will explain the Hong Kong and China conflict
I saw that.
Very plain to you. Now you'll understand what's going on instead of, we flapping your gum. Yesterday's 60 Minutes, it should be on YouTube right now. So watch it later. Don't watch it now. Watch it later. Now, what we got? What else we got?
And of course, you mentioned the 60 Minutes. Now, actually, I went to sleep watching that segment last night after the Astros game. When I got back in town, I saw them go into it and explain to that. And that's the thing. A lot of times, people will take the talking points and run with it. And a lot of people out there knew a piece of it, but to understand, these guys are protesting in Hong Kong. and what they're protesting for. And then you factor that in and you say, well, then you look back at Daryl Morey's statement, albeit he risked a hell of a lot, but then understanding his thoughts, and I learned a lot about Daryl Morey and a lot of people, over the weekend and over the last few days. I spoke with a few people that actually one guy who was in China with Daryl Morey just last week. I spoke with him over the weekend. Not gonna say his name, but actually was with him. Flew over there, and he's very, very visible and resides in the Houston area. But Daryl Morey has a reputation of being a little bit
say it
arrogant.
There you go.
And so a lot of people felt that this was good for him.
Good medicine.
To be muted, to be reminded, you don't slow down. You haven't gotten beyond you're too big for your britches, or you're thinking you're too big for it. They still fit you. That's Jimmy, basically what it was.
Hey, Chris.
So a lot of
thank you, Jimmy, for confirming what I said already last week. I think I said that.
No.
I said that about 1,000 times.
Half the boom room was going at our head.
Yeah, it was going in my head.
The boom room, understand, being smart and being right are two different things. Now, Kata, Jimmy, Deshaun Watson versus the boy Kansas City, your homeboy. I don't know. Oh, my God.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, my God. I don't know, man.
That's a horse of a different color.
Of course, Deshaun Watson on yesterday, he played masterful, 30 for 42, 280 yards in the win. However, he did have 2 interceptions. And Patrick Mahomes, 19 for 35, 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It came down to 1 possession. But what I'm saying to the Texans fans is that Deshaun Watson, don't fall into the trap of the Dallas Cowboy fans. Let them go and win the game after the game, right? And then then you go and you feel a little bit better. Don't take.
What are you talking about?
No, because that's what y'all did.
What are you talking about?
Dude, we had lost 2 straight at home. We're in a 3-game span, hadn't scored over 14 points. Now the last 2 games, the Texans are scoring.
I wasn't talking about the kid. We weren't talking about the kid. It's always been good. We've been talking about the coach. We've always said the kid was great. I've always thought this kid was great. But think about it. This kid, Patrick Mahomes, got a great Andy Reid, a great coach. Would you think that Houston Texans have a great coach? No. They got great organizations. Kansas City has a general manager. We don't even have a general manager. Kansas City got weapons. Now we just getting weapons. This boy Deshaun Watson has always been the truth. So it ain't about the game out of the game. It's hard to play great when somebody beating on your head a record amount of times.
No sacks in 2 games.
It's hard.
Jimmy, you said, remember when Jimmy said, I don't care if they sacking him or not. I don't care if they sacking him or not. Yeah. Look what happens when they don't give up sacks, Jimmy. That's what we were trying to tell you.
No,
when they don't give up sacks, this is what this dude is capable of doing.
Chris, Deshaun Watson got to the podium and accepted responsibility. He held himself accountable in that press conference.
Because he's the quarterback, Jimmy. That's what
a quarterback's supposed to do.
Come on, Jimmy. No, but a lot of them don't. We've seen quarterbacks rolling out.
No, he ain't one of them. Jimmy, he ain't one of them. He's the real deal.
But listen, and we all know who's one of them or not during times of adversity or after a loss. With Deshaun Watson, he accepted that. So he didn't go and say, hey, man, these guys ain't – he got to get rid of that ball faster. He got to be able to read faster and better.
He's smart enough to know. He's smart enough to know that if he does that, what's going to be said. So there's no value, and he cannot win that argument. So he might as well take the heat because he's the one that's going to make the most money. The quarterback is the guy that's got to take the heat, regardless. If he throws his offensive lineman on the shelf like that, or throw him under the bus, you think they're gonna want to block for him more?
Hey, do me a favor, stat man. Go in your stats and go back to about the last 15 games of both of these two players. Okay, and I would bet my right pocket that Deshaun Watson's record is better than Patrick Mahomes. Remember, Deshaun Watson started as a rookie. Pat Mahomes had the advantage of sitting behind Alex Smith for a whole season. To watch it. This boy is the real deal. He just be happen to play for a team that you don't too much care for, but this guy's the real deal. This reminds me, Chris, back in the 70s, guys like Jimmy, back in the 70s, The Godfather 2 came out, right? And it won the Oscars. It had Francis Ford Coppola, all the top actors, and they won the Oscar. But it was another movie that same year called Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. So if you go talk to all the aspiring directors in college, they had to study that movie, Chinatown, as one of the masterpiece. Check this out. Godfather got all the publicity, but Chinatown was the better movie. Mahomes getting all the publicity, but y'all gonna find out. Yeah, come on, baby. Y'all gonna find out that Deshaun Watson is the better quarterback, and I'm just telling you, just cause you know the prophet.
What are you basing it on?
Jimmy don't like James Harden. Jimmy don't like Deshaun Watson, man. I don't understand.
Just remember, I told Jimmy a long time ago in the old station, look out for this kid, Pat Mahomes. Huh? It's based on. I look at his history. I told you to go back and look at the last 15 games.
So hold on.
I told you to go back.
So if you look at his history, then why the hell you want me to go look it up?
Well, I'm just helping you out because you're the stat man.
No, you helped me out by saying
but you don't. No. Babe, to know a man, look at his history. You got a history of going back and fact checking me. You got a history of it. No, but you got.
You already looked it up.
No. But you got a history of it. So I said,
but you look it up. Dude, there's tons of things in quarterbacks. Because me, I'm gonna look at wins and losses.
You gotta look at more than wins and losses, Jimmy.
No. Go back and look at the last 15 games, and he got more wins than that guy. Come on, let's go. Go back and look at it.
No, I'm looking at wins and losses, and I'm looking at how far he took that team after the regular season.
Okay. Jimmy, it's a team sport, man. Guys, it's a team sport.
Chris, if it's tight between two people, then it comes down to the marriage.
Hey, Chris.
Marriage break all ties.
He took him.
If you got 2 points,
so he went. Hold up. So he went one more game past and beat.
I don't give a damn. It was a half a game.
I got you. So that win yesterday. What does the win yesterday do?
That breaks the tie. That has to break the tie. They went head to head. And Derek Johnson had the nerve to say Patrick Mahomes was hurt. Are you serious? Watson had 2 ACL tears, man. This dude is a bad dude, man.
Oh, no, Chris.
He made on third. Was it 4th down? He made that.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
The game. And he got killed. Come on, man.
And Chris, what about the 3 touchdown passes them guys dropped right in their hand? But hold up, Chris. You know what I love about Deshaun Watson, and this is what I told y'all last year. This is where he got me at. When he couldn't fly because of his lungs were hurting so bad. He couldn't get in a pressurized vehicle. Couldn't fly. They drove a bus all the way from here to Jacksonville. He played and started. Let me tell you something. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Jimmy. I've never heard of a quarterback doing that. I never heard of nobody doing that. So guess what? That guy there, he's a different animal. He's a different animal.
I got to go to Boomer Room. I got to go to Boomer Room real quick. Stacey just said something. Let's stay on track. Mr. Hicks is great at moving the goalposts when it comes to Deshaun Watson. Damn, shit.
Damn.
No.
What Stacey said?
Here's what you guys understand. And I just replied to him. Y'all don't get it. Deshaun Watson is actually one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I like holding people accountable because I want same people to hold me accountable. So I hope, and so that's the thing. He's one of, I say it again, Deshaun Watson is
Jimmy,
one of my favorite players in the NFL.
I don't
Not
believe
only
you.
I don't believe you.
I don't believe
I don't
you.
believe you.
I don't believe you.
I
don't
think
believe
you're
you.
stretching it. I think you're stretching the truth.
No,
I don't believe.
Really?
I don't believe.
How many people in the NFL you hear me talk about?
I just don't believe you. You know what? I just don't believe you.
How many people in the NFL do you hear me talking about?
Can't I just not believe you?
Talk about.
I ain't never heard
talk about Deshaun.
Deshaun Watson. I ain't never heard you say nothing positive about it.
Somebody clear some up about this Lamar Jackson dude, man. He's a great running back, man. He's tremendous running back.
No, he's a great quarterback.
Running
He's a great
back,
quarterback.
Man.
He's a great
Michael Vick reincarnated.
Okay.
Michael Vick reincarnated.
I got a question, Jimmy. Jimmy, help me out with this one, Jimmy. What's that boy named Baker Mayfield is known for his what? Hold up. His accuracy, right? His accuracy, right? Tell me why Baker Mayfield got 11 interceptions and this other kid you talking about that can't throw, he got 11 touchdowns. Tell me why Baker Mayfield, the accurate guy you talking about, a great quarterback, and he got great delivery.
I didn't say he was a great quarterback.
But them other guys said. And you come calling this guy a running back, he got 11 he got 11 touchdowns. Throwing it. He ain't got no 11 interceptions.
7 in the first game. He got 7 in the first game, Adam.
He
got like 7 in the first game. Stop it.
Wow. But it's all good. But Jimmy, thank you, Stacey. Thank you, Stacey.
Stacey says nothing to hold him accountable for. Yes, it is, Stacey. You must forget when the Texans were playing at home against Carolina and Cam Newton did not come to town. That was a home game. We lost that game. The loss wasn't the issue. The thing was the Texans only scored 10 points in that loss at home. And that was the game, whereas the accountability, what I'm talking about, was Deshaun Watson.
Patrick Mahomes had lost at home yesterday, Jimmy. Patrick Mahomes. Jared Goff.
Two straight games at home.
This situation with this game, Patrick Mahomes losing to the Texans versus the Texans losing to a backup quarterback who was on his in the second game starting. That's what we're talking about. That's what people.
Jimmy, guys like you, talking heads like you, y'all gonna always say that. But quarterbacks never play against each other. It's not like basketball. They never play against each other. They just hope their teams match up and their teams do well. Quarterbacks never play. One don't play offense and one guard the other one on defense. They don't play each other. Evidently you don't.
But it's still credit. It's still credit like that.
You give it too much credit.
That quarterback whooped that other quarterback butt. We still credit it like that in Monday morning quarterback terminology. That's how it still says. When certain quarterbacks go opposite each other, think about it. Why was the narrative black quarterbacks versus black quarterbacks? They never played against each other on the field, but that's how the narrative is sold. And so we got to go and get into this other topic because as promised, it is time, and our special guest is joined us. And remember, Chris, you once a year removed, going into a year removed, was a college coach at the University of Cal Berkeley. You coached in the Pac-12. You've also coached in other schools and around the country, and Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, on that West Coast. And I was thinking about something. A lot of the rules back years ago, a decade or so ago, the Ed O'Bannon situation took light. And then before then, all of the time, then he fought and got rulings to the NCAA on it. Through the courts, and then they appealed, and then here we are again now. Now, the Fair Pay to Play Act is in effect in California, and the originator who spearheaded the movement, Ramogi Huma, is live with us right now from California to explain to us the timeline and what and how did he manage to push this thing through and to meet Nancy Skinner or to get this thing in her hands, and so that we can get all be educated on how easy it is to get something done that you truly believe in and fight for in this society. So without further ado, we have with us live right now, we have Ramogi Huma. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, man, welcome to the Chop Shop, buddy.
What's up, brother?
I appreciate you for having me.
What's up, big guy?
Now tell us a little bit, of course, about your background. And, of course, I know you played football for UCLA and how, just take us right back to that moment playing football. And it was something that happened that lit your fuse that resulted into what's going on today. And what was that?
Definitely. Yeah, so played football at UCLA. And, I mean, really, it happened really quick. I came on campus, and about midway during the season, the All-American linebacker that I was backing up, I found out he was suspended. Walking in a team meeting, he found out he was suspended by the NCAA. So it turns out he was on a radio show talking about how tough it was to get by, that he was broke, didn't have enough food, and didn't know where he's going to get his next check was in a few days, and he didn't know where he's going to get his next meal. So someone left groceries on his doorstep, someone who had heard the radio show. His roommate took it in. He gets home and there's food in the refrigerator, so he eats, and somehow the NCAA found out, and when they found out, they suspended him. And what was really crazy was when I found that out, I had just walked by the UCLA student store where they were selling his jersey in the store. And the NCAA said, well, you can't make money off of your athletic reputation, your name, and that's why it's an NCAA violation. But meanwhile, UCLA is maximizing, every ounce of profit off of his name by selling his jersey in the store. I mean, I think he had the sack record at the time. It was just, a lot to take in. And myself, at the time, I had lost 10 pounds because I went from eating 5-6 meals a day at home. Come on campus, you get a meal card for 3 meals a day. But for a lot of players, that's not enough because you're burning so many calories. So to me, I just feel like players really needed a voice. How can we be the engine of this system and not even have a voice and really be driven to a point where even getting food can be hard. So started a student group on campus with the idea to get together with players from other schools. And now we have about 20,000 current and former players from across the nation, about 150 campuses.
And what's the name of that organization?
It's called the National College Players Association. So it turned from a student group, now it's a nonprofit. And basically we advocate for college athletes' rights, from compensation to degree completion to health and safety. It's really been at the forefront of the push to try to get some justice for college athletes.
Hey, Ramogi, I read the deal that you sent Jimmy and it talks about the reasons not to pay athletes. I'm a former college 20 years. I absolutely believe they should be paid. And so people disagree and agree on certain topics. Give me the rationale of why you believe, A, do you believe they're employees? All right. And B, why you think they should be paid. And you could talk about likeness, or you could talk about, as I say, get a percentage of the TV revenue that comes in.
Sure. I mean, on the employee issue, and actually I had partnered with some players at Northwestern, Kane Coulter. We started a separate organization called CAPA, the College Athletes Players Association, in order to prove that college athletes are workers with workers' rights and should have the ability to form a union. And, basically it was a simple argument. Players are paid to play. It's not charity. You don't go out there and they just give you money for no reason. You go out there, you go to practice, you go to school, you go to games. Even by Northwestern's itinerary, you could see there was at least 50 hours a week that players were required to spend on the sports, and that's the deal, and that's fine. But to pretend like it's not an employee-employer arrangement is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, back in the 50s, when they debated paying players in the form of a scholarship, it was widely known across all the schools. They said, well, if we pay them, they're employees. And they went ahead and paid them anyway, but they kind of masked the relationship. They said, well, let's call them student athletes. Let's call this a scholarship instead of payment, so hopefully we can avoid the courts making us pay workers' compensation. So they were pretty successful. And when we made our push at Northwestern, the only ruling on record was that we won. The regional NLRB said, yeah, you guys are employees. It was appealed to the full board, which in turn refused to make a determination, which was we're kind of blindsided by that. But effectively, it ended that push, so the players couldn't go forward. But the NLRB never said that players are not employees, because really they couldn't. You look at the law, it's very clear-cut. But in terms of compensation, and like you said, there are different opinions, and that's America. America is full of different opinions, that's fine. But why do I think college athletes should receive more compensation and other opportunities? Because that's the legal thing to do. They're full citizens. Every other student on campus can go and get paid doing anything. Any kind of talent they have, they can go get paid, whether it be by the school itself. You see them in the student store, work in the student store, the libraries. The NCAA doesn't claim that those students would be ruining higher education if they're paid, because they are paid. To suggest otherwise is ridiculous. And, if, the other argument is, well, players get enough, and that's debatable. Some people think, hey, it's fine. They get a scholarship, they should be happy. And other people say, well, no, their market value is much higher. This is America after all, so why cap them? So legally, and I've been an advisor on the major antitrust lawsuits since 2005, and the NCAA has been found to be illegally price fixing player compensation multiple times. So it's a matter of law. In America, you can't just go price fixing salaries or compensation. And the NCAA has been losing these arguments. So our moral compass is equal protections under the law. And if you believe that, then you believe college athletes should have every opportunity that the rest of us have as American citizens. College athletes should be able to receive extra compensation.
Ramogi, do you think, here's my thing that bothers me, and maybe I'm wrong, and this is the chop shop, and we always go there, okay? The two sports, let's keep it 100, that we're talking about, or the revenue drivers, are men's basketball and football. And those sports happen to be heavily dominated by African-American players. And so somebody said to me, and I don't know if I agree or disagree, that if it was swimming and baseball, and those parents saw their kids making that type of contribution to a university and not being paid for it, there would be a major uproar. But because it's a certain demographic or ethnicity where, unfortunately, we're just like, oh, my God, all we think about is getting a scholarship. Even when I grew up, we got to get a scholarship. We got to get a scholarship so I don't have to pay for college. Nothing about compensation or whether Alabama was putting a $200 million renovation on their school or Rupp Arena's putting a $200 million renovation and kids get nothing in return. Is it a race issue because it's black kids that are predominantly, driving this force, and we can't see ourselves paying them?
That's a great question. It's come up pretty much since the day I started this organization. I've been, that question's been asked many, many times. And to be clear, obviously, we're looking at players of all races are being exploited. And our organization, we fight for players across all sports. However, it's interesting. I really didn't have an answer myself. I've heard that statement be made, but a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, there was a major study done that attempted to measure and kind of quantify that. So they surveyed Americans and found that controlling for everything else, it didn't matter political affiliation, it didn't matter, a whole bunch of other things. But the controlling, the determining factor on that question was whether or not the respondent had any kind of racial resentment against African Americans, subconscious or otherwise. And the people that ran that study, there were various professors that ran that study. And it turned out that was the major determinant of people who opposed college athlete compensation were the primary factor was underlying against African Americans. So for me, even after having been an advocate for, years and years and years, it obviously was disturbing. Obviously it was insulting, but it really doesn't change our push. We're still fighting, but to know that is likely a factor in this whole debate, it's kind of disturbing. And nothing else, there's been no other studies. There's been nothing to refute that yet. So the question is asked. And in California, we were co-sponsors of the name, image, and likeness bill that just passed. One of the things that we pointed out was, there are some civil rights implications. The majority of college athletes in California are from protected classes. They're women and minorities, the majority, period, across all sports. So when you deny them equal rights, you deny them equal access to compensation and equal economic freedoms, that's immediately a civil rights implication. And as you point out, football and basketball, in terms of revenue generating sports, African Americans are predominantly, they comprise these rosters. So definitely race seems to be playing a dynamic. But as I mentioned, the bill that we co-sponsored, when it was approved, it was approved unanimously. There was no opposition. Democrat, Republican, lawmakers of all races approved it. So just because we have challenges doesn't mean we can't overcome them.
And of course, if you just tune into the Chop Shop, we have with us live Ramogi Huma from California. He's a former football player at UCLA who helped form the National College Players Association, which in turn submitted their thoughts and the proposal to which eventually got voted into law and was now known as the Fair Pay to Play Act. So with the Nancy Skinner, how did you get your thoughts into her possession?
Well, we've been seeing the different routes. So as an advocacy group, we open up different battlefronts. One is public pressure, try to get in the media and expose, a lot of the things that are going wrong. Another is helping to arrange lawsuits. But legislation, forming new laws, pushing for new laws to protect college athletes has been something we've been engaged with since 2003. And in California, the legislature, they've seen us enough. They know we're around. They've been very receptive to the cause. So, ideally, for us, we thought, well, if we can get one state on board, the rest will follow. Just because they're not going to be without protections and opportunities. So, California was kind of a perfect test case. And some of the people who have been advocating actually lived in Nancy Skinner's district. So, she heard him talk as Andy Schwartz, noted economist I've known for many, many years, and we've been collaborating on state legislation for a long time. And turns out she wanted to help. She said, "How can I help? Can the state law fix this?" And he said, "Absolutely." So their office got in contact with us, the NCPA, and I was up there lobbying personally in these offices, providing all the information and background, and it was just really a really good team. Although it was a unanimous vote, that bill almost died twice. I mean, Nancy Skinner, she's a warrior. She fought for this thing, and thankfully for college athletes, not only in California, but as we kind of mentioned, I think we're going to see this expand to other states. So that's the background of it, really.
Hey, Ramogi, this is Robert Hatter. I asked this question to a lot of people who are advocates for this, my biggest thing is how, because in the beginning, they was talking about, let's pay the player. So I asked, how do you pay them? So y'all, when you came up with this, it's a lot better of the Fair Play Act, and it's I think what I'm really trying to say is how are they going to police these players being paid? Is there going to be some kind of regulations? Who's going to govern this? Is it going to be like the Wild Wild West, or I'm just trying to figure out because if there's no governing body, if there's no collective bargaining agreement in NBA or the NFL, everybody be doing just anything. What's going to be the collective bargaining chip or the agreement? Who's going to govern how and when these kids get paid in college or get paid for their likeness? Have anybody thought about that?
Well, sure. Yeah. If you step back, it's kind of similar to other freedoms we have. We don't actually need governing in certain areas.
Okay.
Students on campus aren't governed as to whether or not they take jobs anywhere around the nation, how they move, how they make money. Now, college athletes, I think what the instinct is, well, wait a minute, how is it going to be fair if recruits can go to one school in California and receive various economic opportunities, but not elsewhere? And really, it's interesting because that already happens. So we already have a governing body. It's the NCAA. Now, again, we've been proven that they're illegally pricing player compensation to do it. But even under that, you got Division I players, some of whom get off scholarships from one school, but a walk-on position at another. So one school is offering money, and one school might offer a 1-year scholarship. Another school can now offer a 5-year scholarship. So if you look at Division I, even in the Ivy League's Division I, they get $0 in scholarship money, right? Mm-hmm. So you get an offer over there, it's just a non-scholarship player. If Stanford offers you a 5-year scholarship, you're making over $300,000. So who's stepping in there? Nobody's stepping in there. And then on top of that, I just saw, the University of Illinois, they just built this big complex, this miniature golf.
I saw that. Yeah.
I think there was a lazy river and a slide going from one place to another.
Right.
So you have these schools still competing with vastly amount of different resources from one school to the next. Some schools hire the best coaches. Some schools have the best facilities. Some schools have sun. Other schools have snow. Okay.
Okay.
Is a common misperception that the NCAA has been hammering into it is that everything is fair, when actually nothing is fair. Even on the same team, you got players who might have a partial scholarship, no scholarship, or a full scholarship, all getting paid different amounts. But the NCAA, puts itself front and center as if there needs to be some kind of regulatory body. And if you look at it in the court cases I mentioned, in the federal rulings, they declared, the court said, no, there is no level playing field. With the NCAA's rules as is, it still does not bring forth competitive equity. So why there's equal rights for a myth, for a lie of competitive equity, when it does not exist? So the NCAA is illegally and artificially handcuffing all kinds of players and programs for no reason. You're still going to see Alabama and Clemson in the top 5 pretty much every year for the foreseeable future. Right. And others aren't going to be there. That's just how it works, because they have more money, they have a bigger recruiting budget, and everything else that comes with that. So there really doesn't need to be police, and that's kind of what this boils down to.
Hey, Jimmy, I know you want to make a point. I'm going to give it back, but let me ask this one question. Do you honestly think, Ramogi, that so explain to people, because I don't know if people understand, who the actual NCAA is. Obviously, there's a governing body that Mark Emmert runs. But the people that comprise or bring forth the rules, the Gene Smith, the ADs, the presidents, do you think that we need to have a organization other than the NCAA that is separate from those people? Because what happens is they're making the rules. They're not going to make rules that are against their own interests. So do we need to have an organization that's separate from them, where the NCAA is kind of like Roger Goodell in the NFL? The players are never going to win against the NFL because Roger Goodell gets paid by the owners. They got no chance of winning anything. So should the same thing happen in the NCAA? Because that's what's happening in the NCAA. The people that make the rules are also the people that run basically the NCAA. So why would the NCAA do anything to help the players?
That is a great question. And the answer, and for all the listeners, people don't realize this, the NCAA is nothing but a collective organization of all the schools. So every single NCAA rule that's passed has been collectively decided by the schools themselves. The NCAA was formed by the schools. So as you mentioned, they're not going to do anything in the players' interest that they perceive to harm their own interests. So when it comes to economics, they're going to take all the money. These sports have been paid for long ago. So to pretend that you need billions and billions of dollars in new revenue in order for these sports to continue surviving, that's a lie. All that new money goes into coach salaries and facilities, and the schools like it that way. So does there need to be a separate organization? And essentially, there needs to be an intervention. That's what you're getting at. The schools have a conflict of interest. They're compromised, so they can't be the guardians of what's best for players. They can be the guardians of what's best for the schools, and they already are. Right. So what you're seeing in California, for instance, is one kind of sliver of an intervention. Maybe there's not another association. Maybe there could be. Okay, maybe there could be another group, which is why we set out to unionize Northwestern football players to give more equity. That though the NFL players, there is Roger Goodell, but Roger Goodell has to negotiate with the union in order for anything to happen. And if he doesn't, it gums everything up. You're not going to have a season. So those players bound themselves together because of labor law, and they said, we're going to exercise our right to form a union and negotiate as partners. So that's why you see salaries much different. You have real salaries in the NFL mostly commensurate with the value. Whereas in college, we've done studies, and you're getting about a tenth of the value for the average football and basketball player in college. So the state of California right now is kind of intervening, acting as an unbiased third party, saying, wait a minute, this is not just. We're going to step in. This is a predatory industry that's taking advantage of these players. So here's our intervention. We're gonna make this stop right here. Whether or not there could be a whole organization, whether it be a union or some other body, it would absolutely be helpful. For the NCAA, they've had absolute power right now. And that's the collective will of the schools. It's been very damaging to the players.
Hey, last point before Jimmy jumps in. What would happen if all the best players? I know I have to ask, man, because no,
that's good. Because I got one for him too.
But Missouri, what would happen if all the players just said we're boycotting and not playing? Like you have the big Clemson game. What would happen? Like, what happened in Missouri with the racial situation, and the kids say they weren't going to go to the bowl game. Everybody got fired. What would happen on one if there was a Black Saturday where every player says, you know what, you guys aren't going to pass this rule, we're not playing? What do you think would happen, Mogi?
Oh, definitely. They'd have to listen. I mean, again, the players are the engine. I think it would depend also on how it played out. The players have a lot of power on their own campuses, as you mentioned at Missouri. But if Missouri players boycott to try to change NCAA rules, that's not going to be a lot of leverage for those players. To change campus rules, absolutely. The NCAA, their tournament, they make all their money off the basketball tournament. If players wouldn't get together and ever boycott, that tournament would be the spot where they'd have the
Final Four
against the NCAA. So, I mean, there's different ways, but I'll tell you, there are many players who have been, proactively thinking about that. I mean, as a player, most of them don't realize they only have a 2% chance to get on to the NBA or the NFL. And so, but 98% of them think they're going to go. So they don't see college necessarily as the destination. They see it as the transition. So they're kind of wanting to hedge themselves. So, yeah, they don't want the continued injustice, but if they feel like they would disturb their chances to get to the NFL or NBA, then they would think twice. But I mean, that's a good question. I think at the end of the day, that question underscores the fact that the players have power, and it's about channeling that power in ways that can be effective for change.
Jimmy, do you have something? Because I got one. And all I want to know, Ramogi, we got parents listening to our show right now. They probably got kids coming up in 2023. Okay? Their kids going to be 2023. What do you tell those? What can they expect by the time 2023 come up? What do you think?
Look,
what could they expect?
I'm not taking anything for granted. This is a fight, okay? California, that bill has been delayed. The NCAA has been very resilient, okay? So they're going to try to fight it any way they can. So that's one big reason why we're not stopping. We're going state to state. And the two things they should do: one, go on our website at ncpanow.org, and we have what's called model legislation. We want that bill. Just copy and paste, send it to your lawmaker. We even have a contact your lawmaker website. They need that bill everywhere. Your kid he should have options. He or she should have options in every state in the union. And secondly, National Signing Day is coming up. One of the things we put together is a contract. The letter of intent is about the worst document you can sign.
Oh, wow.
There is no guarantees of even a scholarship, much less any protections. So we put together a document that was reviewed by lawyers that actually gives parents and the recruits an idea of what they can get currently under NCAA rules. The schools can provide 5-year scholarships. They can provide guaranteed health coverage for sports-related injuries. They can provide, continuing scholarship if they're permanently injured. All these things you need in writing. Don't get it from a coach who's going to give a verbal promise, who may or may not even be there the next year, because we get our phone flooded with calls from players who get really betrayed by the school. So after fighting forever to build yourself up, get yourself in that position to get a scholarship, get as informed and equipped as possible to get real protections while you still have leverage. Once you're on campus, you're theirs. You're there. So right now, those players have leverage. They can go on our website and they can download it for free. And all the parents need to take a look at that. So I think those two things, they can help be a part of the solution.
And what is that letter called when they go to your website? Well, how would they find a copy of that letter?
So right on the header, it says CAP guarantee. It stands for the College Athlete Protection Guarantee. And we want the players to have written guarantees. And, the parents sometimes, they're wondering, well, will this ruin my kid's chances? Will we anger school? Questions you're asking anyway. What happens if my kid gets hurt? You're asking that question anyway. The next step is just ask, will you put that in writing? Here's the document. And believe me, the coaches are increasingly aware of this. And there's a number of them that have indicated that when parents bring it up, depending on who the recruit is and if they want it bad enough, they might be willing to sign. And if they're not, then you say, okay, well, that's fine. And maybe you're still interested, maybe you're not. But that's for you to decide once you figure out whether or not they're actually going to give those protections. So I'm telling you, that's the most important thing for parents to know right now going into signing season. And then in the next couple of years, looking at this name, image, and likeness bill, we got There's a bill in Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois introduced something, and these bills need to pass. And some of these start dates are going to be closer than 3 years. Pennsylvania looking at next year. That's what the bill says, July 1st. This could all happen a lot quicker than 3 years, but we need people pushing it, contacting their lawmakers to say our kids deserve equal rights when they get to college.
So now we're going to do now, Chris. I want to get your thoughts because I have a couple of questions, but I don't want to jump from this topic. This is very important, and as we can tell by a lot of people out there are listening, and they're coming and they're posing questions for you in the Boom Boom Room. That's what we call our timeline while the show is going live right now worldwide. Keith says, before I get to you, Chris, Keith says, does the school abide by the contract? And what I do is I toss this to you because, Chris Walker, you've been a career Division I college basketball coach. You've been at Villanova, Vanderbilt, New Mexico, Texas Tech, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, UMass, and, of course, Cal. Did I get them all right?
You got too many of them right. You got too many of them. Keep going, though.
Okay, so now, the CAP guarantee. I like the acronym. The college, what is it? The college,
the college athlete protection.
College athlete protection. I like that. So that way, so now we can, from this day forth, we can refer to that. We have an official document that can be described to go under what we've been saying a lot of time. A lot of people in every corner of the country. You don't have to sign a letter of intent. But Chris, from the coach's standpoint, you've been the college coach. Why in the hell do y'all never tell these kids they have to sign a letter of intent?
Why you saying y'all? Hold on. Why y'all saying? Well, I'm not a college coach anymore.
You was.
Okay, here's the deal, fellas. And Ramogi, you can comment however you want on this, right? The bottom line is that is the rules that are set in forth. You get a letter of intent and you get a scholarship from the school, all right? You get granted aid from the school. And the letter of intent binds you to the school. The scholarship papers bind the school to you, right? So as Ramogi says, it is the worst document to ever sign, because there's all types of rules that are centered around a letter of intent. You can't get out of it. The coach leaves, you can't leave. Like, there's so many different things that protects the school, but does not protect you. The problem is, as I mentioned earlier, and Ramogi may disagree, the same reason why kids don't protest is because the 2% that actually have a chance is the 98% that can actually change this rule, not the 2%. Because those to the league, so they're not going to do anything to jeopardize that. It's also the same thing on the letter of intent side. The 2%, the coaches will tell them they don't have to sign it. The 2% will be like, you don't worry about signing. Those 98%, they're going to force them to sign it and say, you know what? If you don't sign this, we're going to give it to somebody else. They will try to leverage them. But they won't do that to the kids going to Kentucky and Duke. If Zion Williamson doesn't want to sign a letter of intent, they're not going to force him. They're going to let him sign those scholarship papers and keep it at that. Now, what the letter of intent does, it opens the school up, because if a kid changes his mind, he can always change his mind. Football is the wild, wild west when it comes to commitments. In basketball, it's not as prevalent to change your mind. But if you only sign the scholarship papers, you can change your mind. The letter of intent stops you from changing your mind. That's why the early signing period was created. It used to be everyone only signed late. What was called late, it was the only period. They created the early signing period, so now you're off the books. You can't sign late, and the coach doesn't have to worry about going out and recruiting. So you can't just change your mind. In football, they commit and change their mind all the time. So I don't know what Ramogi's thoughts are about that, but that's why they make them sign the letter of intent, period.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with a lot of that. For one, and you have to gauge what kind of recruit you or your child is. If you're getting 12 offers, 20 offers, well, you have options. Okay, so maybe some of those coaches say, no, we want you to sign, or not, or we won't sign the cap guarantee. Maybe some of those coaches say we will. I remember on my recruiting trips, I was looking for anything. I mean, all the schools looked so similar. Everybody looked like they were doing great, and everybody loved the players apparently. If there was something like this where I could say, hey, coach, what do you think about this document? I want to make sure those things you said in case you go somewhere else, in case AD changes, whatever it is, I want to make sure I have these protections in writing. Would you be willing to consider that? If 3 of the 4 schools said no, and that last school said yes, that I was considering, I'd have gone to that last school. That'd have immediately been my decision because there's so much value. We're talking about literally it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars in value to me and my family for a school ready to do that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be just the top 2%. The other thing is the cap guarantee can also be signed in conjunction with the letter of intent. With or without the letter of intent, the cap guarantee can still be in there to make sure those players are bound. The school is bound to providing protection for those players, regardless of whether or not a coach, leaves or wants to backtrack on their commitment. So, and I do think it's going to be the players with the options that will begin to drive this forward. Until our hope is that it becomes an industry standard, a documented, and maybe it doesn't look exactly like the cap guarantee, but I think coaches and the institutions are going to hopefully one day realize, wait a minute, if we want quality talent, they're all asking for real guarantees now. Nobody's signing this terrible letter of intent unless it comes with actual protections. But I think the top players will be the ones. And it's not just about not signing the national letter of intent. Yeah, the top players to this day, there's been pretty high-profile examples of players not signing it, and they're the best players in the nation. But those very players, not only do they not have to sign the letter of intent, they can insist on whoever they go to that they sign the cap guarantee, that they get protections that are real, not just verbal promises.
And I'll say this, guys, I've been in a room where if you got to understand, like, people got to sit in these rooms and understand what's going on. Not that Ramogi hasn't, but when you recruit a kid for 4 years and you're sitting there and it comes down to nut cutting time, you're going to get him over Duke or North Carolina, Kentucky, because those guys never stop even when they sign a letter of intent. Even when they sign scholarship papers. And the thought of you getting that kid and that him being able to change his mind after he signed with you, that coach is going to be like, well, why won't he sign the letter of intent if this is not the school that he really wants to go to? Because he's protecting himself. Because what if you go take another job because they give you 2 extra salary? Or what if the guy that's recruiting him that he fell in love with the school leaves and goes to another university? They know that they got to have those protections in place to stop you from being able to do that. But as Harry would say, what stops the coach from leaving the school to get more pay? Nothing stops him, but everyone stops the player. I'm sorry.
There's definitely been examples of that too. We got, you see a coach right after recruiting is done. No one knows it, but he's already agreed to go to a different school, and he's doing the school that he's leaving from a favor. So he'll recruit the rest of those kids. And as soon as signing day is over, he announces a few days later he's going to another school. And now you got kids who are trapped at one school. And so, and I understand the coach's need for, to figure out who's going to come to their school. And we're not necessarily not to sign a letter of intent. That's a negotiation, and that depends on how many options the players have and, how much they really like the school. But if a player is going to be willing to give up his eligibility to that school, regardless, that player also needs real protections on health coverage. When I say health coverage, a lot of the parents, they're paying monthly to have their kids on their work and their employer-based health insurance. The school can now, not just sports-related health coverage, they can provide now 24/7 real health coverage. That family could save a couple of $1,000s right there. There's so many things that are important to that family that is wrapped up in the cap guarantee that they should, really at the very least be informed, and that's what the contract does, is it informs players and parents about what's available that won't break NCAA rules, and secondarily, they can put promises in writing. And again, whether or not it's with a national letter of intent is kind of beside the point. That's up to the players and the parents and the coach to see if it's a good fit. But our goal is to make sure that every single player that signs eventually have the cap guarantee or an instrument just like it so they can get real protections.
So now, Ramogi, I want to ask you, as it stands, because your organization, the National College Players Association, are advocates for the cap guarantee, right?
Correct.
What schools can you name? What Division I schools can you name that have and are honoring the cap guarantee?
That's a good question. We've talked to some recruits and their parents that have kind of brought it up, And again, even the top recruits, some of their parents, you know, are a little bit wary of asking, and we kind of, you know, that's why I mentioned, you know, if that's the case, you're asking these questions anyway. The next step is to and not to go in and demand things, but to bring up the question, hey, you know, would you put this in writing? So we don't know. We actually don't know, and it's kind of a new contract that we came up with. So it's been, again, vetted by lawyers, and it's in place. It doesn't violate NCAA rules. We don't know exactly, but we do know that some of the recruits have said that certain coaches absolutely aware of the cap guarantee, and you know, there's been some recruits to say, yeah, you know, we will max that out for you. You know, to tell the recruits we'll max that out for you. When you think about it, look at the quote unquote scandals, okay, where players are paid under the table and the schools are doing something, the coaches are doing something. If a coach was willing to just outright break NCAA rules to funnel thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to players, that same coach is likely going to be able to max out a player contract that does not break NCAA rules.
That's a great way to look at it. Now, going back, also, I have one question that one of the viewers posed to you, Ramogi, and this was a few minutes ago. And as far as likeness, we backtrack and go back to the likeness part. A lot of people really don't understand likeness. So I need you to basically, once again, on the likeness portion, his question was, what if the universities decide to take the names off the back of the jerseys? How would that then affect?
Well,
go ahead on.
Sure. A lot of the universities don't have players' names on the back of the jerseys. You know, a lot of them do. It's not that the university wouldn't be able to use it. The bill is designed so that players can go and use their own name, image, and likeness to go make money. So, for instance, if there could be an advertisement, they could go back to their old high school, okay, and do an autograph signing. Many of these players are still, even if they're not a star player on their college team, they're still a big name at their old high school. So if they go back to their old high school and have an autograph signing or throw a football or basketball camp or something like that, they can advertise it. They can say, hey, look, you know, here's my name. You know, whatever the name the player is, if so-and-so's coming to campus to do this and that, and he won't get in trouble. But if he does that right now, the NCAA will punish him. So it's more about the players using the player's name, image, and likeness, not the university.
Now and that's really important, guys. If you didn't catch that, so what if they don't have a name on the back of the jersey? This bill, this law in California, it enables and empowers the players. This has players to be able to have more control over their likeness. So I mean, if you wore number 5 and I wore number 5, you get to go and make money and put your name on the back of yours, just like I do mine. And they want to put in the store, wants to put whatever name on the back in the store and sell it. Guess what? That's the store's prerogative. That's the thing. And so now it says, and now I understand a lot better. Now, another thing to understanding is a while back, because a lot of people really, really were pessimistic on this, even getting to this point. As you said, the bill almost died twice before Nancy Skinner kept pounding in California and got this thing hammered through. And of course, the governor as well. Well, back in the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken, the NCAA was in total control of television revenue for the schools, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct.
And then somebody with the schools said, wait a minute. They supposed to be a nonprofit, but we busting our butt and we doing all this, and the NCAA getting all the TV revenue. You mean to tell me we got to, if we don't play on NBC when Notre Dame got occupied every damn Saturday, if we don't play on CBS, Chris Walker and his Villanova Wildcats playing on Big Monday, how in the hell are we going to be able to get this thing? And so what happened to dispel and make that model crumble? Did it not crumble?
So you had it right. Basically, I think everybody understands the basic premise of a monopoly. When you own everything. And at that point, the schools allowed the NCAA to own all of the TV rights and dictate game schedules. Well, the NCAA was only showing like one game a week. And look at that now. It stands in stark contrast with what goes on today. That means Oklahoma and all these different conferences, whatever the school might be, Notre Dame, they couldn't go broker their own TV deals. So all of America would see maybe one game a week. So, and what it did was it reduced the chance to grow the sport, grow the fan base, the viewership. It choked off opportunities for revenue streams for the schools directly. And now the conferences broker almost all the TV deals, right? So none of that could take place. And some of the schools themselves said, wait a minute, we want to make our own money, make our own deals. The NCAA cannot have a monopoly. It's against antitrust laws. We have antitrust laws to make sure you can't just have a monopoly doing these kinds of things. So it's very much related to what's going on with the players. So they lost that case. The NCAA, the Supreme Court said, yeah, you don't have an antitrust exemption, NCAA. That means you're subject to the antitrust law. You cannot cap and prevent all these schools from brokering their own TV deals. And after that, not only the games, the game viewership exploded, the revenues exploded. If that court case hadn't been brought, then we'd all still be looking at one game a week. Revenue in college sports would be much, much less. And it'd be much less of an enjoyable product. Same thing's happening with the player compensation. The NCAA is taking it upon itself to price fix what the players can earn. It's illegal. They don't have an antitrust exemption. So, we've been challenging that in the courts. The state of California is breaking out of that. Say, no, that's not going to be the case. And now the NCAA in turn has been threatening essentially another illegal activity. They've been saying, well, if California goes forward with this, we're going to kick them out. We're not going to let them play in our sports. Well, that's another monopolistic illegal activity. You can't have a group boycott. You can't own the whole industry and then cut out competitors to try to kill them. That is, and we've seen them lose this over and over again. So, but yes, that actually set the precedent. Now, the NCAA, if you'll notice, they don't do anything now with football, period.
Yep, that's right.
The season, the postseason. And they don't touch regular season basketball. But the schools have still granted the NCAA the ability to throw the postseason basketball. And that's just the wishes of the schools. If the schools wanted to take it back or the conferences want to take it back and do something different, they can do that any day. But that's the landscape.
Ramogi, how can people watch a Ohio State football game with 100,000 people and a Michigan football game with 100,000 people, then watch two NFL games on Sunday? As much money, they are making as much money on these college games or they are on the NFL games, and actually think that kids should be compensated. I for the life of me, I can't understand why people would fight that argument.
The NCAA's had a 100-year head start on us. And I think that's what it is. They've been pounding these messages that are false, that this is about amateurism. It's not about amateurism. It's a $14 billion a year industry. Coaches are making millions and millions of dollars. Players are required to shoe a pair of logos on their uniforms to advertise for the companies that the schools broker the most deals with. I mean, nothing about this is amateur sports. This is not Little League baseball. It's not the rec center. But I think that's one hump some people have to get over. And then the competitive equity. Well, if players get money, won't that be unfair? And once again, there's already schools with tons of money winning the recruiting battles because they have tons of money. And there's not a level playing field to begin with. So I think those two things have been the most powerful notions that we've been able to dispel. The other one that you'll hear is, well, if you pay football and basketball players, then the non-revenue sports will go away. Well, that's a lie. And I can prove it's a lie. If you need big football and basketball to sustain non-revenue sports, then Division II wouldn't exist.
That's right.
Division III wouldn't exist, right? All of them are non-revenue. The schools have these programs because, for a lot of reasons, they in turn generate donations from alumni, school spirit, it's marketing for their schools. How many of us would have heard of Ohio State? Out of state, unless you're in Ohio, how many of us would have heard of Ohio State University without sports? Not many. But now the whole world knows about it. I traveled to Kenya after I graduated just for a visit. My dad's from Kenya. I traveled over there and I saw a University of Michigan football sweatshirt. It was football. I had traveled all the way to Kenya. They would not have heard about the University of Michigan, most likely, if it hadn't been for their football program. So there's many, many reasons that non-revenue sports exist. And, really, you can look at the NCAA's own structure, Division II. They give scholarships in Division II.
Hey, Jimmy, I'll tell you this, Jimmy. At the university, at Cal Berkeley, right, they have 35 sports, probably one of the most in the country, and most of the West Coast schools do because they have the winter. They don't have the winter that the East Coast schools have, and that they tried to get rid of rowing several times. They cannot get rid of rowing because their biggest donors in the department are former rowers. So a lot of these people that play in these Olympic sports have the most money because the football players and the basketball players don't give money back to the schools. So even though they play in the revenue sports, they aren't necessarily the guys that give money back to the universities. And the last point I make is, I want Ramogi to answer this. Ramogi, it's a Title IX issue that may come up because, again, we know that in the women's sports, Fob brought this up the other day. LSU made $147 million in 2017, LSU football. The basketball team made $1.6 million on the plus side. Women's basketball lost $4 million. How do you address the Title IX issue of the guys making the money and then the women will be like, gotta be equitable when you know that they're losing the money?
With Title IX, it's actually pretty simple. Okay, so, and especially within the lens of this law, anything that comes directly from the school is subject to Title IX. If a school wants to pay directly a football or basketball player extra, they're going to do the same for the women as a matter of federal law, period. There's no discretion in that. But if you look at anything that player can get outside the school, if that player signs a Nike deal, that player gets the Nike deal. If he's a male athlete and Nike's under no obligation to provide the same to a female athlete that's more something that's not school-based. So it's not really hard. Title IX won't go away. If Title IX doesn't prevent anything, if you're looking at whether or not football and basketball players could get their full value, directly from the school, well, if it's school-based, their full value is half, basically, because of the law. That is their full value. So if a player would have otherwise got $100,000, but the school says, well, we got Title IX, so you're going to get $50,000. Well, in a school-based setting, that's his value because the federal government decided that. If he gets that $100,000 directly from Nike, it is not subject to Title IX.
Oh wow.
So, hey man, we definitely, Ramogi,
big time show, man.
You provided so much intel for us as well as our viewers on the Chop Shop. We definitely, man, we out of time. We appreciate. We went overtime with you twice, but it was worth it because of the intel that you provided. And lastly, before we get up out of here, I want you to give the people your website again so they can go and learn more about the National College Players Association, right?
Sure.
As well as
and thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. Absolutely. The website is ncpanow.org, and that's where you'll find cap guarantee, which is the contract. That's where you'll find the model legislation, so the parents can push that in their own states, anywhere, and make sure the lawmakers protect players and give players opportunities in their own states. So those are the two things that parents really need to do. And I'm talking about not just the high school parents. I'm talking about you got kids in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You should be setting them up for success in your state as well, not just on the field.
Wow, man. Hey, man, once again,
hey, I don't know how long Ramogi gonna be around. Mark Emmett gonna send that hit squad after him, man. You better be like Obama and get you some Secret Service, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he already been to Kenya. You see, he been to Kenya. That's what he went to get some.
They shot him up.
You didn't get that. He went to Kenya to get some. Now, on the last question I wanted to ask you, Mo, before we get about it, is how much, or can you give us an instance where you've received pushback along the lines of from just people that's coming up out to you and tell you, like, man, cut this mess out, or all the way to death threats as a result of your efforts to help these student athletes?
Sure. I haven't had any kind of threats against me at this point. And the NCAA, they're kind of toxic. They don't like getting their hands dirty. They'll talk through the media or in front of lawmakers. They don't really engage with us. And it's funny because some of my family had asked early on, do I have to watch my back? And I said, well, look, the people who are benefiting the most, especially at the time, were the coaches. And the coaches are going to be fine regardless. If $4 million turns into $3 million, I don't think they're going to go catch a case worrying about me,
Right.
Using that value. Mark Emmert and, the people of those executives, it hasn't been anything like that at all. I will say, it can be involved, but at this point, never a problem.
That's good.
All right, man.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it, man.
much.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, man. Good stuff.
Huma, guys. And hey, man, great intel. Go over to their website. That's ncpanow.org. ncpanow.org. Go to that website, and of course, don't forget to check out on a copy of the Cap Guarantee. And so, I mean, thanks so much. That's remote. That's our
That
guy.
was crazy, man.
Our guy Ramogi, and in full effect, and we definitely appreciate him.
What you think, Hatter? What you think, Hatter? I want to know what you think. What you think, Hatter?
I mean, hey, shit, what you mean what I think?
Yeah, I'm curious. What you think? I mean, we got it right from the horse's mouth.
No, I mean, sure. I guess it's evident what's going on, Chris. I'm watching these, but he said something key. And I think we overlook parents here in Houston. Send this stuff, call your legislator and push this thing in your city, in your state. And I think we kind of glossed over that. You know, we got to push it here because we never said, you know, we around here bragging about us, everybody else, everywhere else. But on this show, we've never had a push. I never that come out of nobody's mouth said, let's push in this state to legislatively, if you care about it so much. So let's push forward in this state also. Don't just wait on every other state. So, because if all 50 states join in, man, they got to do something. So that's what I got out of the whole thing. Let's do what we can. Instead of sitting up here rah-rah and have your pom-pom like you've been doing the whole time, Chris. Go Nancy, go Nancy, go Nancy, go Gonzalez, go. You know you've been pom-pomming with your little skirt and everything.
Oh my God.
But he said something so key that it was unique that I liked it. Chris, no, you can announce the starting five for us today. I'm going to let you announce them today. Starting five time, y'all.
Nah, man, some of these dudes, man, they always chopping me up. I don't know if I want to really mention.
No. You mention them guys, man.
I'm going to go Doc Newsome, Rick Cowboy Lovin' Whitmore, Anthony Weston, Dal Anderson, and Kyle Cole. That's my starting five.
Oh, Kyle got on there early. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's my starting five for the day. And I thought it was a great show, man. Very informative.
Great info. Great info. And you heard it from the guy who started, you know, when you talk about the Ed O'Banions of the world and all of these people and then that. But this guy, I saw it was a special on him, and he was talking about it on a special on TV. And I remember him, and I mean, great. I mean, and like he said, ain't no death threats to me. He said, guess what? These coaches gonna still make money. You're not stopping these coaches they gonna still get their bread. But he said, but if they go from 4 million to 3 million, they in the same tax bracket. They'll be all right. They'll be out. But now that's what they got to me, Jimmy. So if the players win with their likeness, that means we're taking away from the coaches?
No, not in this instance, because you know why?
But he said that. He said that, though. He said that.
What?
Yoki said that. Yoki said that.
This bill does not have anything to do with the coffers of the NCAA.
Yet.
Now the NCAA, you rest assured, they're going to write. They have until the end of this month. No, they don't have. They self-imposed around October the 28th or the 29th. They will have a counter to California's fair pay to play. Now that's only 2 weeks away, and in that counter, you can rest assured that the NCAA is going to write themselves into a solution, because otherwise this bill bypasses the NCAA on the front end. Now on the back end, meaning that schools won't be able to play for a championship. But hell, unless you play baseball at Cal Riverside or Cal State Fullerton, who've been to the College World Series, that don't matter at Fresno State as much, or San Diego State, or University of San Diego. It matters, but it doesn't. Trust me, you're not going there anyway, no time soon, unless you go and pull off a hell of a Fab Five of sort. But back to this thing. Once again, guys, the rules will give the thing that I like, the interpretation. the best way to interpret it to the masses. This law will enable the players to take advantage and be compensated for their likeness.
Okay.
For their likeness.
Yeah.
So that means, as I mentioned
but notice,
earlier, Lionel Gar, I think, mentioned about a score would have to get permission from the school if they make a uniform. But guess what? That store just can't sell a uniform with that school information. Sure, you're right. But that means, but if that store want to put that kid face on a shirt and make it whatever color he want to at the school, at the store, long as there's various colors, then guess what? That's legal. That's the thing. A lot of people won't. For example, Derek King is at University of Houston. The star quarterback, whatever reason, decided that he's going to red shirt the rest of this football season with U of H. Derek King started before the quarterback who you just saw on television. Many of you guys who watched LSU versus Florida on Saturday night. Hal and I was over at TSU. We watched it in the second half of that game, the Florida and LSU game. Well, that quarterback was the bench rider at Manville High School in Houston. He has his team right now in the top 10 in the United States of America. Derek King at the University of Houston is going to red shirt out. My point is this. There was rumors that Derek King, people wanted he was going to transfer out and leave. He hadn't decided yet, but it looks like he's going to probably stay. But understand something. That kid from Florida is like a guard on campus when they're winning, before the LSU game, of course. He's like a guard on the campus up in Gainesville. Derek King, if they had a store somewhere in Houston, if the Turkey Leg Hut, who are fans of Manville High School, I do know that. If they wanted to go, if this rule was in effect in Houston, if they wanted to go and name one of their turkey legs the King Turkey Leg, and put Derek King on the menu, he could get paid off of that. That helps. And people that don't have a dog in the fight, as Ramogi just said, they've done the studies. Most people that are opposed to this, and Chris, you just said, if this was rowing, if this was freaking rugby, we wouldn't even be worried about this.
Yeah, but Jimmy, what do you and Hatter think about me asking the question about, because it's black kids that are playing predominantly in the revenue sports, that people don't want them to get paid? It's a racial issue, but it's swept under the rug, Hatter. But it's black kids, they don't want them getting that bread. All of a sudden we don't want the bad actors, or we don't want the third party people to be involved. I mean, think about that.
Chris, that happens in the NFL and NBA. People don't complain about how much money the owner makes because he's white. But everybody got to worry about what Antonio Brown and all of these guys make because they black. So think about it. Watch what you see. We have to watch even our language. How, man, he don't need that much money. He don't want it. But not one person said anything about how much money Bob McNair's making or Jerry Jones making. Yeah, it's okay for Jerry Jones to make the money because he's white. But when Tyler Perry goes down to Atlanta and build a movie studio, and I'm going to talk about this, y'all can get mad at me forever, because I know the plight of being around the entertainment industry as long as I have. I know how powerful that is. That man, we around here crying about the Oscars so white. You remember, they ain't giving us no Oscars. He said, man, look here. I'm not going to beg them for a seat at the table. You know what the thing is? And a lot of people don't like Tyler Perry because he dressed up in like a woman and all that. Hey, talking about that's a bad image. It wasn't no bad image for my son, because I taught my son who his heroes are. And I groomed him to who his heroes were. But this man with that persona came down and built an empire. He said, I built a table. They wouldn't let me come to their table. I built my own. And guess what? I built it catering to my people. Because when I first came to Hollywood, ABC and all of them people told me, no, you can't do this. You can't say. ABC told this man, he had a show with him, man, you can't say Jesus that many times on ABC. Let me rewind that and press play for that. You're playing Jesus too much. So guess what he said? Y'all keep that mess. I'm going to go do my own thing. Because they trying to tell him that's how Hollywood is, ladies and gentlemen. So this guy, think about it. He said some key, Jimmy, I looked at one of his things. He said, guess what? I catered to my people. My people supported me. Chop shop, boom, boom room. That's why we cater and talk to y'all, because y'all the ones support us. He said, I'm not going to do all that other stuff. My people help me build this. That's what he said at the thing. My people help me build this complex. And he said, ain't it so ironic? Ain't it so ironic that all of this property used to be a Confederate army base. Then it turned into McPherson's army base. But he said the Confederate army used to plot on how to keep us enslaved on this property. And now a black man owns this property. So guess what, y'all? We can do a lot more than we think we can do. We can. That's my message for y'all. We can do. So guess what? Like I said, don't nobody complain when Jerry Jones getting the billions. You only want to complain when one of the players getting the millions. So that's my soapbox.
That's a good way to end it right there, boy. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So, hey, man, guess what? That being said, guess what? Look at the clock on the wall and say that's all, y'all. It's time.
Oh, my God.
And
we
slide
started
down.
late.
Dino's back. We were in stream overtime today. As we do on a Monday, we give you guys some special stuff. I hope that some of the things today, of course, we informed and you enlightened you, but that was a great education session by Ramogi and about the Fair Play to Pay Act. And also, more impressively, I went and downloaded a copy of the College Athlete Protection Guarantee. And this is one I'm going to read through this thing tonight. And Chris, you being the college coach, I'm curious. I want you to do it as well, and that way we can try to
check it out.
One day we can come back and pick through it and see with you as a college coach how because I asked him the question, what schools that could he name?
Not one school. He didn't name one.
He danced. A great answer.
He danced.
He didn't give me one school that have honored this thing. And that's the thing. That's what I do. I just need results. I was holding them accountable because I had to ask that question. That way, because if there's a school that we know that honor it, then that way we know to be a supporter of that school if you feel behind this mission. And that's true.
And guess what? Guess what? We're so blessed to have this technology, Jimmy. I got the technology right now. Tomorrow, when you bring it up, I can go and screen share that website right straight into the screen. So I'm gonna work on that tonight. So we might be able to do that so they can see it. If they haven't already downloaded, they can actually see the actual document within the screen. Might be smaller, but they can see the actual doc. Okay?
Hey, man. Hey, with that being said, guys, guess what? We thanks for everybody, man, for tuning to the Chop Shop. Thanks for all you guys who hung in there and endured the conversation because you know what?
Information, man.
We noticed that so many people want stuff to be microwaved for them. And I understand the young people, but the older heads and the people that are adults, come on, we didn't grow up with the microwave just at your disposal as a little bitty kid. You had to cook that stuff. And this was what we did today. It was cooked. It might have took a little time, but this stuff is important.
Yeah.
This stuff is important. Mm-hmm. And although many of you may have students or may have kids who are out of high school, your neighbor may not.
Oh, that's school out today, Jimmy. School's out today. in some places.
Yesterday.
Everybody, it's a Jewish holiday.
Monday.
Oh, that's right. Columbus. Oh, we don't want to get on Columbus Day. Don't get how to X started. Don't get how to X started.
No. I got so much to share with y'all.
Don't get how to X started on Columbus Day.
It's gonna be. Hey, all I tell
I'm still
y'all.
trying to figure out how to. Hold on.
Tell a friend. Tell another friend. Tell a friend, tell another friend about this Chop Shop. Because in this next month, I got some stuff that's brewing in me. And Chris Walker, I gave him a book. I want him to go refresh that book. Chris Walker, we going to rehash, and Jimmy Hicks, we going to rehash the book, The $40 Million Slave. We're going to rehash some of them points, because some of these points that man brought up now is what young Stogie was talking about today.
No, we need to get Bill Rowe.
I get him on the Chop Shop.
Right.
We get ready.
Jimmy,
I need about a week or two.
We're going to get.
He's locked in with Fox.
Yes, we're going to get him. Dude, we're going to educate. Boy, this is going to be. Oh, hold on. Jimmy, you know what? I'm going to take us out. I'm gonna play a couple of commercials. Jimmy, y'all can go wherever y'all want to if y'all want to. But I got to play a couple of commercials today, man.
Mark your calendars for Saturday, November the 16th at the M.O. Campbell Center located in Houston, Texas. That's the RCS Sports season opener. A day filled of high school boys basketball starting at 9:30 a.m. when Aldine Nimitz takes on Houston Christian, followed by Aldine Davis versus Sam Houston. Langham Creek will take on Summer Creek. Westbury Christian versus Port Arthur Memorial. How about Dickinson versus Beaumont United? That's a rematch of the Super 16 Extravaganza Championship game. Martin Ranch will take on Jack Yates at 5 p.m., followed by Hightower versus Cypress Creek. And the finale, Shadow Creek versus Episcopal at 8 p.m. That's the RCS Sports season opener, powered by Boost Mobile. A limited amount of $5 tickets are on sale now at all participating schools. That's the season opener on Saturday.
Yeah, that's gonna be some fire, Doc. That's gonna be Chris, you still there? Chris must have left. But Jimmy, hey man, that was a great show. Let's crank it back up. We'll see y'all tomorrow. All right, Chop Shop, we out.
Peace.
Hold up.
Jim Hicks, Rob Hatter. You are now tuned in to the Chop Shop. I'm Retro. Let's get it. We in the Chop Shop. We live in the Chop Shop. We talking sports talk. We live in the Chop Shop.